Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for, I'm just probably going to call this video my Dream Vermont game. I have played, I don't know how much Vermont I've played in World of Warships, being the Tier 10 American brick battleship hosting 12 457mm guns and having among the heaviest AP salvos, broadsides in the game. So I have to double check how many battles I have had in this ship, but this is an Airship Escort. It's from last year, and I've been sitting on it for a while, and I just didn't have enough time to do like a veteran player guide series today because I gotta rush to other things after this video wraps up. But I had my Dream Vermont game, and I've been sitting on this for quite some time and just wanting to showcase to you the brick firepower, because this was such a satisfying game for me. Because I feel like a lot of times with Vermont, you know, it's a slow battleship. I mean, you have this deadly ability to just absolutely wreck enemy destroyers, cruisers, battleships, aircraft carriers, submarines, certainly in the game. But then, of course, it kind of depends how's the battle going, how's the enemy team positioning, because Vermont's all about rewarding those broadside salvos in the game. And it's frustrating when you don't feel like you have many targets to shoot at, or maybe with your longer reload time, if you go for the artillery plotting room 2, which is what I do, so that means we get a 40-second reload time before adrenaline rush kicks in. We end up waiting a really long time in between salvos for those broadside shots, where other battleships may be 30 seconds and underneath. So Vermont is a type of battleship that you're just waiting for possible broadside opportunities, which we're going to have in this game. Now I was kind of watching this Prince Ruprecht as he was beginning to kind of angle out. Now he's going back more battle in. But Prince Ruprecht's pretty soft as a battle cruiser, so we're still going to chunk him for 15k, and we're going to keep moving up. So really what Vermont boasts is a very powerful main battery, and also having a 40-second cooldown time on a repair party, which is absolutely phenomenal. And good AA, this, that, and the other. So, Broadside Iowa, who decides to slow down for some reason, which I'm not entirely sure if he understands. This is a Vermont. And I'm like, come on, this is the perfect salvo. It's like he's gifted it to me. A paid actor! So, I was so happy with that. Salvo, 69k broadside salvo. So I am divisioned up with Doom and Midnight Phoenix. Midnight Phoenix is also my admin in the FLT Discord server, which is the Discord server link, invite link is in the description below if you're interested to hop in and join us. So Vermont has some strengths, just as you saw illustrated there. But, she does have several weaknesses. One is that she's slow. Hard to disengage. Ooh, 26k salvo. Yeah, that Ruprecht is, he's not an armored battleship. She's pretty slow. It's hard for her to disengage, especially if your flank loses and you're trying to disengage and kite away. Here we're definitely applying pressure to the flank here on the enemy team. Other things are, besides the ship being slow, she's rather round, so it's actually rather difficult to angle with Vermont, simply because of how round the ship is if you kind of get a good look at it. So you might think you're angled, but you might not be angled. Yeah, we're touched for 36k, so we're just getting some really good cross-map shots. That's another thing that Vermont does really well in terms of her strength. Now you do have to be mindful because, if you overextend in Vermont, things can go south for you really quick. So essentially, Vermont just rewards, it rewards a really good battleship player. If you're patient, you're looking to make the big plays, you're decent with battleships in the game. So it is really nice overall with Vermont. Now, one thing that's very frustrating, at least with the wargaming version of World of Warships, is that sometimes you can be shooting over islands and then there's some gravity well that pulls your shells down as it goes over an island. It's this aiming bug that's been in the game for a year or two now that wargaming won't fix. And that can make it really frustrating shooting over islands, so I tend to try not to shoot over islands if I can help it. But here in Airship Escort, as I said, this was a game from last year, where basically we want to establish control of the endpoint. So that's pretty important. You know, there's a 22k salvo. So we're up to 174,000 damage. But we want to control the endpoint destination here. And that's usually pretty big. So typically, like on this map, either you have people who will get on the airships. As you see there on the 3-4 line, our team's trying to slow down the enemy one. So securing your airship and securing the endpoint tend to be the two most important things with Airship Escort. So, you know, for us here, it's like, yeah, we can take our time. We can chunk down this Wisconsin, kind of waiting for him to hit the border here before I pop a shot. And that's really, you have to kind of think through before you ultimately pull the trigger, because there's nothing more frustrating to pop a salvo and then just it not connect when you've had to already wait, you know, 36, 40 seconds. So we prepped Max Doom near in the Wisconsin, but we are pushing the one Wisconsin away as our team's kind of beginning to fall apart, but we do have a lead with our airship. So that's basically what Midnight's doing. You see he's securing the airship. So he's playing Minnesota and he's just getting over there now. So it does take a little while, and you can see we're also playing with Brisk also. Very helpful since we get a decent 12.6 conceal. Other thing you shouldn't be hesitant with Vermont is chunking destroyers. It's very satisfying. Even if you have just a full AP salvo loaded in Prince Ruprecht, he's not learned from his lessons so far of watching his fellow comrades show broadside. Yeah. So 217,000 damage. I had some heals, so I wanted to go ahead and get those off in advance before enemy team gets up. So we may have used the heal prematurely, but I think it worked out just fine for us here. You know, Wisconsin is, you know, another one of those American battleships in the game with a super accurate 9, 4, and 6mm guns. She's among the most accurate battleships at tier 10. So we have to be aware of the funny button as well with Wisconsin, since you get a faster reload off with that F key ability. So yeah, not too much damage there. He was a bit angled in bow in, but we went ahead and went dark. And we're letting a salvo reload before we end up pushing back in. So we're the only ones over here. And there's still a submarine running around somewhere, so not entirely sure where he's at. So we're just gonna kind of, or is it submarine? Oh, it's a destroyer, excuse me. The gearing out here. And then we'll push back out, because we try to be mindful of gearing torpedoes as well, right? So we've been playing pretty passively and just letting the enemy team make mistakes, which is really one of the strengths of Vermont. Is you're just waiting, because ultimately one of the biggest things that a lot of players struggle with in the game is if they're not moving, you know, in or out, then they're like, what am I doing with my life, right? So, you know, sometimes you can just be playing this more idle positioning. Maybe you're going forward, maybe you're going reverse, maybe you're set up, you're bowing, or you're kiting out. A lot of people struggle with that, so they kind of constantly run around and they keep giving you broadside. You know, Iowa showed us broadside right at the start, and we punished that. Ruprecht has been kind of, you know, he saw him, he's going in, he's going out. He's kind of like this wave, right? And you see a lot of people do that, and that ends up being where Vermont comes in and shines, even Minnesota or an enemy Wisconsin, and you just absolutely murder the broadside of those ships as Midnight there taps out the Wisconsin. And then we switch to high explosives. So, you know, again, when we're talking about these main battery guns, they rank, I don't know, there's these other ships in the game, I don't know if they're like they're test ships. Let me take that out. Yeah, so Vermont would rank 3rd in terms of the heaviest AP salvo in the game, 189,000, just behind Cecilia and Christopher Colombo. And even her high explosive salvo, it's 77,400, which is also 3rd in the game. So you murder destroyers or submarines if you accurately land a high explosive salvo, even if you're using armor piercing. So this is just like one of those games that was really rewarding for me, because you end up having to play a lot of Vermont, I feel like, to get kind of the dream brick game, dream brick games, if you will, just because you have to be patient and you're waiting for the enemy team to make mistakes and you're capitalizing on them, and that's really where Vermont ends up shining. You know, similar battleships, like I said, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Slava, Yamato, Satsuma, Musashi, even though Musashi is kind of like wrestles a little bit more with maybe the dispersion and accuracy in the game. So it's the type of battleship that you can somewhat consistently punish broadsides in the game. Of course, it's nothing more annoying when you're, like I said, you're flying over islands, or even there's no islands in the way and you shoot at a ship, and then just the shells just splash all around, or maybe one of the 12 connects when you're shooting a Minotaur, right? That can be really frustrating, even if you felt like you aimed quite well. So we're working with our Regalo here. We're shifting our position. You know, when you're hunting a DD, you shouldn't be sailing straight lines. Basically, our goal is just to keep him out of the cap. As you see, Midnight with Minnesota just guiding our airship into the rendezvous destination point. I'm still really hoping to get a salvo off here. I don't actually remember if I do or he ends up staying dark. Yeah, he stays dark. We get a salvo off, but I don't know if it connects in time. Yeah, it connected. So we'll maybe have to see how much damage we did there right at the end. So that's 264,000 damage. Like, this is one of among my better Vermont games. And keep in mind, you know, we're not going to get any achievements because this is Airship Escort here on Trident. So, but that beautiful salvo opening up in the game against the broadside enemy Iowa, you know, that made me so happy, because I've had so many games where I felt like I got robbed from like this absolute obliteration of a dev strike. So 2,209 base XP with Midnight on top with 2,296 base XP, rocking the Minnesota, rocking the cheese ships in the game. So that's kind of, I think, why Doom ended up going in Wisconsin, the cheese division. So the gearing, we touched to 7,000 there just at the end. We had to get the shot off there pretty fast. But when you look at the armor piercing, like 257,000 damage in the armor piercing alone, and only 4 high explosive shells connected for that 7,000 damage that we did to the gearing, and we only took a little damage, not a lot. And with premium count, this is all said and done. So this is me finally sharing with you my Dream Vermont game. I probably need to get back more into Vermont again. I've been playing a lot of other various ships, working on commanders and different lines and things like that. But yeah, so Slava is like a ship that I'm really wanting to get, hopefully sometime soon, because, you know, the game's getting more passive. It has been for some time now, and so there's certain instances that these types of ships are getting more of a value. And I think especially Christopher Colombo is like, that ship is like coming back up in terms of a very strong strength with a lot of the gimmick ships we got in the game, but also that unique upgrade on Colombo makes that ship pretty cracked now, especially dealing with a lot of the funny button ships in the game. So that being said, if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you subscribe, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.